Hi, everybody doing great? Okay, let's see here. Oops. So welcome to the June OWASP Austin chapter meeting. Our sponsors for today for food, it's funded by our LASCON conference, our annual conference. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few slides later. And facilities, National Instruments is providing this space for us to meet. So thank you for National Instruments. Chapter leadership, I'm Tiana Chandler, the chapter leader, and we have several others here as well. Raise your hands for those that are on the chapter leadership. If you have any questions about our chapter and want to get involved, just talk to one of us. For CPEs, you're eligible for one CPE hour. The way I have it set up right now is if you could just email me separately, I will get a certificate to you. To support OWASP, we have memberships that are either for individuals or corporate memberships, and then there's also student membership as well. I don't think that came out very well on the slide here, but if you want to sign up for membership, you can go to the OWASP page and sign up there. Also, other opportunities for volunteering. Again, if you want to get involved in the leadership, we have some speaker opportunities where you can speak at the chapter meetings and some other local events that may occur. If you purchase a lot from Amazon like I do, then you can use this Amazon Smile to, a portion of that gets donated to the OWASP Foundation. We have a study group currently going on, although I think it's getting close to wrapping up. Matt Pardo, I'm not sure if he's here today, but that usually meets every Thursday at National Instruments at Building A. And we do have a Slack channel that we try to use for communication of that. So, but if you have more questions about the study groups, you can contact Matt Pardo. And then LASCON 2017 is going to be at the end of October of this year. We've got registration ongoing, and we also have some, if you want to present at LASCON, we have extended our CFP submission deadline through July 15th. So if you do want to speak, you can submit your idea presentation there. Also, regarding the registration, we're working on some discount codes for LASCON for both those that are here that attend this meeting, that are on the, I should say, on the OWASP mailing list. We will be sending out a discount code. So if you haven't signed up for that mailing list, please do so. And if you're an OWASP member with a paid registration, there will be an additional discount code that you can get that will provide a code for y'all. Upcoming chapter events. Usually I have a placeholder here for other trainings. Matt Pardo, I know, has been working on some ideas, so stay tuned for that. And the Austin Security Professionals Happy Hour, that next one is coming up on July 13th. And I just have a few of the other local events listed up here. And is there anybody here that's representing any of these groups or other groups that they'd like to make an announcement? No? Okay. As far as job opportunities go, I'd like to take this time to see if there's anybody that is either looking for a job or has a job that they are looking to fill. No. Okay. And now I'd like to present Greg Anderson, who will talk about making vulnerability management less painful with OWASP DefectDojo.
Sorry, that's an office sound. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Testing? Okay, yes, awesome. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Greg Anderson. I am the creator and project leader for OWASP DefectDojo. I also am the last security engineer at Pearson, the last holdout. It's been a fun ride. I'm not a big fan of new tools. To me, I feel like in security, 90% of the time, tools tend to overpromise and underdeliver. So I hope by the end of this will be compelling. And it's not just about DefectDojo, but also mindsets for vulnerability management and security automation, making the most out of the limited resources that at least I have in security. I know some people haven't been as hard hit by staffing issues, but for me personally, it's been kind of a nightmare. So why Dojo? Before I get into what it is, why we use it, et cetera, and the mantras behind developing it, I just wanted to show you first some numbers that we've achieved out of Pearson. So in 2014, we were doing 44 assessments with about 7 full-time engineers, which is terrible. I mean, those are rookie numbers, And by 2016, we were doing 414. And I am the last engineer with a small offshore team of analysts. This is not all attributed to DefectDojo, so that's a 800-ish% increase over 2 years. This is mostly due to Matt Tesoro's principles on appsec pipelines. If you haven't seen his talk, it's on YouTube. It's phenomenal. And so DefectDojo tries to emulate and incorporate a lot of those principles from the appsec pipeline, which is about getting meaningful security automation out of your tooling. So I would say probably the last 100% is totally DefectDojo. Talked about that 840% increase from 2014. Oh, come on. Okay, so when I first started my security career, vulnerability management for me was Dratus 2.0. And Dratus 2.0 is a fine tool, but I felt that our team was spending 60% of our time doing our reports and only spending about 40% of our time actually hacking on products. And so, we had expensive resources that weren't doing what they were hired to do, and we just didn't think that it was the most efficient solution. So at the time, this was in 2012, 11, give or take, we tried a variety of different tools, but we weren't really satisfied with anything in the market. So I don't know if you guys have ever hired a fresh UT grad. Has anyone hired a fresh UT grad recently? Oh, come on. Yes, intern. Intern's great too. At the time, I was a fresh UT grad working at Rackspace, and so I hadn't really learned when was a good time to keep my mouth shut, etc. So I was in a meeting with my leadership team, and we were reviewing our tooling, and I stupidly opened my big mouth and said, I think if you give me the opportunity, I could create something better. And probably because they were tired of dealing with me, they gave me 2 weeks to go do it. I hope you'll agree with me that if you're familiar with the software development lifecycle or just anything in software development, 2 weeks is not a lot of time to create a product. What I did create, though, they did kind of like. So I was given a second engineer whose name was Charles Neal, and we spent another 2 weeks on the product, ended up turning off our current tooling and moving to DefectDojo after only a month of development. And it was a nightmare when we started, to be honest with you. We had a lot of problems with getting our metrics correct due to problems with timestamps, and so I was getting chewed out for that, etc. But now it's a staple for us at Pearson, and we right now, Pearson has 40,000 employees, and it's just me. So I couldn't do it without it. I would have quit or gone to a mental asylum a long time ago. So it's a tool created by security engineers for security engineers. It also offers things, though, for managers, directors, and up through metrics, monitoring of productivity, those sort of things. And it attempts to streamline the testing process by offering things like templating, report generation, metrics, and baseline self-service tools. And I'll get into what all that means, but I think that it's much easier to show you rather than to just talk through it. And the ultimate goal is to allow red teams to focus on what they're hired to do, which is hacking, rather than writing reports. We also try to make sure that the project is extremely well documented. There's a lot of phenomenal tools out there that don't really have the docs to support them. So just about every feature in Dojo is well documented in our Read the Docs page. We have API docs that are built directly into the actual tool itself. So we hope that it will be a very streamlined and headache-free experience. But at the same time, if it's not, please let me know. We recently killed our Docker client temporarily. I was just having too much problems with it. I'm not a fan of Docker personally, but everyone else that's a contributor seems to be. So it is temporarily on hold, but we have a standalone install script that runs on just about every Unix-based system. So we support anything with apt, anything with yum, and brew as well, so you can install on OSX if you want to just check it out for development purposes. We also wanted it to be extremely easy to modify and change and make your own. So I've wanted to contribute to certain projects in the past, but I felt that the barrier to entry in learning these tools was very, very high. So just about everything in Dojo can be changed with 3 files. It's written in Django, which is a Python framework that's extremely easy to work in. But models tends to control all the data. So if you need to tell the database how to interact with what's actually coming from the application, views processes that data and typically hands it to models. And templates is finally what the end user actually sees. But so the barrier is very, very low. DefectDojo is also part of the OWASP code sprint starting next month. And we have a lot of fresh college students that are going to be helping out and contributing. And so I'm hoping that'll be a streamlined process. It should be. But if fresh college students can do it out of high school, I think most people in our industry should definitely be capable. All right, yeah, so just to briefly talk you through what I'm going to get into in the demo. The idea behind templating is I got really tired of doing manual penetration tests and having to rewrite my my references, my resolutions, etc. I ended up just copying and pasting things over and over again from Dratus, and either that or I would start slacking off, right? I was like, please see mitigation above or something like that. So the idea is the ability to save a write-up that you're really proud of and then just reuse it in the future with clicking 2 buttons. Report generation. When I was working on reports and metrics, I was working with a VP at the time. And so VPs tend to change what they want. So it is just about every metric under the sun, which is what we say when we mean metrics that really matter. Life through time, breakdowns by vulnerability type. It just goes on and on and on. Scanner consolidation. So I think the #1 time-saving thing in DefectDojo is the ability to upload the results of all your testing tools to one single mothership, so to say, and then spit that out in one report, rather than having to compare or even worry about duplicates if you turn that feature on. It will act as a mothership for all your scanning sources. And we're working on additional automation around this. Right now, how it works is if we support the tool, you pull down a results file, usually in XML or JSON, and then you upload it, and DefectDojo will store those findings. And yeah, you can consolidate them together. Self-service tools, we have one scanning feature that essentially sets like a baseline for warning people when their infrastructure or their ports change through Nmap. We're also working on building that out. But I think the other big selling point is plugins. So because DefectDojo is written in Django, it can use everything that any other standard Django application can use through the Django plugin system. And so what that means is, let's say you want to use LDAP instead of the default Django DB for managing your users. You just simply add it to your settings file, and now you're using LDAP instead of the normal backend database for user management. And so there's a ton of plugins for Django too. That was kind of the big selling feature when the framework first came out. So in addition to hopefully being easy to customize and modify, you can also just use the Django plugin system to reuse code. Oh, so this is what it looks like when you first log in. This is the dashboard. This is nowhere near all the metrics. All that is mostly in the metrics tab. But the idea here is just to kind of give you a day-to-day overview of what an engineer is working on today. So I wanted to walk you guys through an example to try and make it more real and make more sense, because I could blab on about like why we did the models this way and why these things are connected to each other. But imagine, if you will, that we work at Google, just because I think everyone is very familiar with Google's product line. And so you are a penetration tester at Google tasked with testing Google Docs. So at the top of the DefectDojo structure, the first thing that you would actually enter is a product type, which is the organization or line of business. And for Google Docs, that would be G Suite, most likely. And then product types have products, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's just the application of the product, which is Google Docs. The engagement is kind of your overarching goal for the assessment. So you could be tasked with doing something like a PCI audit. Engagements have tests, which is the tools that you use to complete that engagement. Tests have findings, which is what you found from your tools. And finally, findings have endpoints. So if you're more curious about which is the most vulnerable endpoint in your infrastructure rather than the actual product line, that's also something that you can filter on and do. That one's covering up the rest of them. But we offer a wide variety of scanner integrations right now, and we're always looking to add more if you're interested. But for someone that's looking for a specific scanner, if you just send me like a sample file, I'll add it to our backlog and try to get it knocked out at some point. Right now we're very busy trying to tackle bugs, but we'll get to it at some point. But to briefly cover the scanners that we use, or the scanners that you can integrate with DefectDojo, Veracode checkmarks, Arachne, AppSpider, Perp Suite, Nexpose, ZA Proxy, Retire.js. I think that's a good summary, but they're all in the read the docs. I'm sure I forgot one or two. Demo, okay. So when I first started working on this talk, I used to have like GIFs of each feature, and I would just talk through them. And I realized that was kind of stale. So instead, I'm going to try and break the golden rule of presentation, which is like don't do huge live demos. But I'm going to try and do about like 20 minutes of live demo. So if you have questions, please feel free to interject if something doesn't make sense as I'm walking through it. And fingers crossed everything goes okay. I did this like 10 times last night, but it never goes well when you get here. So. Can you guys see that on the stream? Does anyone know? Okay. Hey. I don't want to talk about it right now. Okay. It's just a demo. This is not my work laptop. This is a temp. This is a burner. Oh Oh, no, it is 4 characters. I was not going to risk messing it up, right? Like, no thanks. Like, I'll take the heckling for the password rather than not be able to type it in up here, you know. Everyone see that? Is that semi-visible? Okay, so if you were to go to Git and clone the project, this is exactly what you would get. The only liberty I've taken is actually pulling down the code because I was worried about like network connections. So yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and walk through install and then create a product, mess around. And again, if you have any questions, just feel free to shout them at me. Four character passwords come in handy, see? So what it's doing is it's installing, it's just pulling down all the libraries, all the everything that's required to set it up, and then it wants to know where MySQL is running. So again, very, very exciting, right? So imagine, if you will, that you're a technical person and you need to impress a non-technical person. You could always just pull this up and run it too, right? A bunch of stuff's going to fly by. Colors are always a positive. So actually what it's doing right now, though, is it's applying all the initial data models. So that way you don't have to go in and set anything up. It should go ahead and just give you some basic information in your DB to start with. Oh man, so far so good. That's usually the hardest part. If we get past that, everything usually goes pretty smoothly. So all we do is throw in the run server command. This is not what you would use for production. I just want to point that out. It's definitely just for development. But yeah, we use UWSD for development. It's also a one-liner. But I just wanted to distinguish that because I've been asked for help a couple of times, and I saw that in production, and I died a little inside. Yes, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the first thing you would see if you actually set up DefectDojo, you log in. And so we're just going to create a product, and then I'm going to upload some scans, do some reporting and some metrics, and yeah. So you start by filling out the product form, very basic, very boring. Does anyone have any really exciting product names? I want to be boring and just test product. Yeah, that's a great idea. See? Yeah, and this is the great thing about doing things before appsec USA. What was my, oh, that's right. I remember now. All right, so you fill up some information about the product, what product type it belongs to. And then after that, we're just going to go straight into creating an engagement. So we specify when the assessment's going to start, when it's going to end, who's doing it. And then if we wanted to, so the thing that I use the most is importing results. So we set what date, we specify what tool we're using, so I'm going to be using Zap. And then traditionally I import everything as unverified and unactive, so that way I can manually go through and make sure that everything is correct and there's hopefully no false positives. But if you're in a hurry, you can just check those, and then it will use the statuses from the tool. Okay, so it uploads the file. It pulls in all the findings from ZAP, and then we can build a report essentially at any level that we want to. So if we just wanted to build a report from this one scan, we would just select report right here. But I'm actually just going to go up to the engagement. So if I had manual findings or another test specified, it would pull that all into a single report rather than just using one tool. Yes. So that will be in the actual report information. There's also a new deduplication feature that we just finished. So for me, I don't necessarily, sometimes I don't have the time to review everything. That's just unfortunately the level of service that some of the products get. And so I enabled the duplication for that. And what it does is it attempts to just combine the results from all the dynamic scanners per se. And how it does that is if the title, the endpoint, so if the title and the endpoint are the same, or if the TWE and the endpoint are the same, it assumes that it's the same thing, and it will pick one of them and use just one and remove the others from the reporting. So that way, they're not reading the same thing over and over again. But that's literally because sometimes I have no time to look at what's actually stood out. Yes. Has the normalized what, sorry? Okay, it takes the newest one. So it's definitely probably not true that the newest one is always better, but in terms of like life through time in the vulnerability, so one thing you might want to look at is this has been in there for a really long time. Maybe it's not valid anymore, so you don't care about things after 300 days, maybe because someone forgot to close something or something like that. So that would reset, and that tends to be the mentality of why we use the newest one. But but so to generate a report, there's all these sort of filters that you can apply to the data before you actually do it. But I'm just going to select PDF, and then we have a celery task that runs in the background. And so eventually this will finish, but this is not a very powerful VM. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you the output of what that'll be. So you get something that looks like this. And you can also like switch this out with your company logo. So, if you want to do, personal branding, you absolutely can do that. But so here's what a finding looks like. It has the severity, the status, date discovered. And I guess it doesn't actually have the tool that found it, but that'll be something we consider adding. And then so for just to briefly cover templating. Yes. I'm sorry. I listen to a lot of really loud electronic music. Can you like yell at me? Because I'm pretty deaf at this point.
In your report,
yes.
You have the findings, the description. I can imagine you can make it up, right? And the cross-site scripting. And then the mitigation part. And so depend on what vulnerabilities you found, and also depend on the product. Your mitigation may be product specific.
Yes.
So how did you generate the mitigation? Or is somebody entered the mitigation?
So you have two options. Most vulnerability scanners have some sort of mitigation or resolution field. So we map that into the form when it's being generated. The alternative is, so like if you're doing a manual penetration test, you just fill that in as you're going. It's definitely true that remediations are specific to products usually, but so you would have to change that and make that custom, like if you're using it as a template per se. But that's where it comes from. Does that answer your question? Yes. So when we import findings from a scanner, all that comes from the data from the scanner. We're not generating or filling in any of that information from like a different third-party source. But yeah, so all you do if you want to make a finding a template is you come down here and select Create Template. Hopefully self-explanatory. And then when you click Finish, it saves it as a template and then lets you know that it saved it as a template. And then let's say that you want to reuse that template to a test. You just select Finding from Template. You select Use this template, and you get all that information back rather than having to copy and paste it to a new finding if you're doing like a manual assessment. And then metrics probably aren't going to be too exciting because we just uploaded things right this second. So you're just going to see some spikes on a graph. Oh, we imported all of them as not active and not verified. So actually the graphs aren't doing anything. Okay, yeah, so when I share the slides out, there's just GIFs of all the features though. So if there's something you're specifically interested in, hopefully this will be self-explanatory. I just thought the demo was a little more exciting than just like watching a picture scroll by and me talk about it. But also it's pretty hard to see on a like a presentation setting. So I think another thing that I wouldn't be able to do my job without is Jira integration. So for us, it seems to be much more effective to put the findings where the developers are used to working in rather than just throwing a report over the fence. The other nice thing about our Jira integration is it's completely bidirectional. So for instance, if someone puts a comment in Jira, it'll show up in DefectDojo. If someone closes a finding in Jira, it'll close in DefectDojo. If you close a finding in DefectDojo, it'll close in Jira, etc. And so that way, you don't have to manage the two management systems once they're set up. They hopefully just talk and sing and work together, and you never have to touch it again. But so the big thing that we're working on DefectDojo, though, is to create a completely automated pipeline that produces meaningful automated results without any human interaction or intervention. And so right now, how we're working to do that is we're using Google Forms as like an intake request, essentially. So, you specify, we originally writing our own app to do this, but we just weren't going to make anything as good as Google Forms, to be honest with you. And they already did it. So that's what we're using right now. But so after you fill out like an intake request, it goes into DefectDojo. It sets up all the engagements. And then we're working on changing our scanner integration to go from uploading files to automatically communicating with their APIs. So that way you can queue up scans automatically without actually have to going into the tool. You won't have to upload results will be pulled automatically. And then finally, the dedupe process will run and spit out a report or push things to Jira that is more meaningful than just running one tool. And hopefully all this will happen without you having to do anything at all. Or at least that's the goal. Fingers crossed, because that's what I need. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind. Contributing. So this past year, we have gained a bit more popularity than I was expecting. And so with that, there have been a spike in bugs, which is absolutely awesome. But we really, really need contributors. If you know anyone that's interested, please send them my way. It's a great also like intro to Python experience, or if you want to be a rock star and pitch it to your company or your employers like a corporate sponsorship thing, we really, really appreciate it. And then so trying it out, we already went over all that in the demo. References. Oh, and I've decided that I'm going to run for the board in OWASP this year, which is the last thing I wanted to share with you guys. I've been a chapter leader, a project leader, and spent a lot of time in OWASP as a whole, so I think that makes me a decent candidate, having seen just about every aspect of OWASP. But I'm not going to bore you to death with that. There's a short link if you want to go read my page that I wrote up on it. And yeah, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys letting me come out and present. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm also on the OWASP Slack just about every waking hour of every day. Yes.
One is regarding your integration with Jira.
Yes.
So is that you plan to do? You don't have it yet, or you already have it?
No, that works. That is 100% functional today.
Yeah. So the question with that is, if I look at your flow and you have the scanning results in loaded manually or automatic query API, and then the scanning result you have, let's say, large number, like in your case, 75 vulnerabilities, right? But some of them may be false. And then what you do? You generate an Jira issue for each one of them, and how does it work?
Yeah, so there's two options. You can either set it so that it pushes everything to Jira automatically, or you can do it on a per finding basis. So again, if false positives is a large concern, what you would do is just manually push each one that you've verified. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. So you still have to be manually verified before. Well, you have the option, either you push all of them, each one as an individual issue, or you manually look through, you only push that which are not false positive.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So the second question is, in your demo, somewhere you had a threat modeling, and you didn't show that part. Can you explain what you can do with threat modeling?
So
thank you.
Traditionally, threat modeling for me has been using like the Microsoft Stride fundamentals, and then using the Microsoft threat modeling tool. And so threat modeling is not as exciting right now as I'd like it to be, but essentially what it does is it saves, it takes an image that you can then download and pull and use for quick reference. We would like to go to something that can be more interactive and actually potentially combine threat models, but that is like I think a monumental task. We'd have to basically write a whole other tool. So if anyone has ideas on like how to tackle that, I'd love to hear them. But that's how it works right now, at least.
Okay, it's something you want to develop. You don't have it yet. Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
No, so right now it just takes images. We would like to build it to use.
Oh, you just take the image from the Microsoft threat modeling tool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Man, I feel like there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I'm sure I'll remember it as soon as I get off from up here. But exactly. But great. Oh yeah, right. So I'm doing this talk at AppSec USA. I'm trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So if there was something that you saw that you were like, I don't understand why you talked about this, or this was boring, or I wish you would have talked more about this or that, just whatever, anything, please feel free to like shoot me a brain dump at this email address. I'd really, really appreciate it. I know everyone forgets, but please, thanks. Now I'm done. Yes.
So I have two questions. One is with regards to integration. Do you have any integration with the HP Web Inspect and HP ALM? I mean,
no.
Or any plans on looking at that?
No, but if someone gives us a sample output file in XML or JSON or CSV, whatever you can get us, we'll add it to the backlog. Okay. Right now we're pretty swamped, to be honest with you. We just upgraded from Django 1.8 to 1.11, and that changed a lot of things. So we're actually have a meeting later today to go through all that.
Okay, one more question. So the other thing, we were kind of looking at trying to have some kind of a simple risk register, and I know this one has some dashboard that can help towards that. There's the other thing, another little product that we kind of looked at, Simple Risk. I don't know if you have heard about that. Any comments on plus and minuses on between this and the other one, or have you had any experience with the other one?
I think Simple Risk is a phenomenal tool. I think they're intended for different people though, because simple risk is focused around like risk auditing, right? Documenting risk to meet compliance. This is very, I'd say, red team focused. And so actually one of the interesting things we're doing is we're taking the data from Dojo and we're pushing it into Splunk, where we also have our IDS monitoring going on. So we're better able to determine if something is a real threat. So if we know that there's an exploit against it from Dojo and we see an attack against it, that raises the reaction level from Pearson. But I'd love to do integration with simple risk, Josh. So we'll see, hopefully. But our backlog is very, very long. I don't want to deceive anyone and make it. So we have a 1.2 release for appsec USA, and most of those issues are already tagged. Again, we're doing a student drive effort involvement, and so hopefully we'll be able to push at a quicker throughput. I also just broke our CI test, which I probably shouldn't tell you, but I need to fix that. Yes. So I try to tread really lightly on this because I really like the guys at Denim Group. But it is a thread fix replacement, essentially. Sorry, Dan.
So I noticed you're authenticating with a local account. Is there a capability to configure for single sign-on access?
I think so, because I'm pretty sure there's a Django single sign-on. Yes, actually, yes. That's what we did when we were at Rackspace. There absolutely is a way to do single sign-on.
I was going to say that'd be a really attractive feature for enterprise.
Yeah, Django plugin. We should probably link it and make it more prominent. Actually, I think we do link it on our README. I'll double check though. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Does that single sign-on use SSL to do its lookups?
I don't know. I'm not a single sign-on expert. Like, does local lookups, remote lookups?
Well, like, you see a lot of applications like, yeah, we do single sign-on, and they're just doing an LDAP lookup over like port 389 is not secure.
I have no idea. I mean, so someone who works with Django wrote it, and so they tend to be pretty competent. I know that when we were working at Rackspace, we were vetting, everything we used, both doing, things like network and traffic protection with Wireshark. I promise this poor password thing is still haunting me, but like, no, we take this very, very seriously. In our pipeline, we try to also apply as many commercial grade tests as possible. So for instance, we do manual penetration tests on DefectDojo. We run the ZAP sort of pipeline scans against it with every change that happens once I fix the build. But yeah, so at the time we vetted the plugin we were using at Rackspace. So I'm going to say yes, unless you end up with a different one or it's changed. And you should absolutely vet whatever plugins you're using, right? Like, I think that's another huge problem in security is everyone is just trusting these libraries and not looking at what actually happens. But I understand the cost trade-off. But that's a Django plugin question. So I'm going to kick it to them.
Anybody else?
Repeat the question. Yeah. Can you explain why you want to replace ThreadFix? Is that because it's no longer or gradually become non-open source?
So part of it was that working in an open source setting, I thought gave us the best opportunity to make something really, hopefully, impressive here. And a lot of that comes down to how simplistic is it to contribute. ThreadFix has come a long way in the past 4 years, which is when we actually started this project. So on a day-to-day comparison, I couldn't really tell you, to be honest with you. There's pluses and minuses. I wouldn't say, but yeah, open source is what we were aiming to drive, and making it as easy as possible for people to contribute to, understand, read, and use.
Anybody else? Still have a few more minutes, actually quite a few more minutes here, so no? Okay, I guess we'll get finished here a lot earlier. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much, Greg.